At this time, I would, I guess, yield to the gentleman from Altoona, or Mr. Shuster.
Thank the gentleman from Allentown for yielding. It's a great privilege for me to be here on the House floor today, talking about someone who I have the highest regard for, and over the years was able to watch just what a tremendous thing he did at the University of Penn State University. And it's not just about winning football games. Of course, he won 409 games in his 46 seasons, 5 undefeated teams, and led Penn State to 2 national championships. But he did more than that. Did more for the university. I know my colleagues have already talked about he's the only Division I school in the country that has a wing of the library named after the head football coach. That's because of his and Sue's dedication and contributions to building that, not only that library, but that institution. And a lot of that building came through as he built those football teams and brought national attention to Penn State. But for me, personal level, probably one of the proudest moments I had, stand on the House floor when I believe he surpassed Walter Camp's winning record of 309 victories, I think it was, about 10 years ago. And John Peterson, the congressman from state, who represented that part of the country at that time, who GT's replaced or followed, we had a special order on the floor, and John Peterson started first, and then the great coach Tom Osborne, which I don't know if many people know, but Tom Osborne served in Congress in the early 2000s, and so Tom Osborne then got up and talked about Joe Paterno and his respect for him. So then I got to follow Tom Osborne. I'm following a legendary football coach talking about a legendary football coach, which really, it's even to this day, I'm getting goosebumps remembering that time, because it was really an exciting and a moment that I'll always remember. But again, what Joe Paterno did that stood apart from many other coaches was his dedication to education and academic excellence. Unlike many other schools with Division I programs, Paterno recruited players speaking first about Penn State's academic excellence. And during that time in the early 2000s when I served with Coach Tom Osborne, those were lean years for Penn State and for Joe Paterno. And when we'd come to town on a Monday or Tuesday night for votes, Coach Osborne would summon me over on the floor and talk to me about what was going on in central Pennsylvania, how was the media treating Joe, and there was a real concern that Coach Osborne had for Joe Paterno, and a real respect came through. So after several of these meetings, I finally asked Coach Osborne, I said, it's obvious you have this great respect for Joe Paterno. Is that because you thought he was a superior coach to you? And he said, oh, no, absolutely not. I have a higher winning percentage than Paterno. But he said, I do have a great respect for Joe, because Joe could do something that nobody ever was able to achieve. And that is, year in and year out, Joe Paterno would graduate roughly 85% of his players, but always the highest graduation rate in Division I. And on top of that, he had quality football teams, and he recruited quality players, and he could compete at a national level. So he said, that's something none of us could do. And then he went on, Coach Osborne went on to tell me about how he would talk to Joe in the off season and try to understand the programs and the discipline and the things he did, because he wanted to be able to get to that level with Joe. And Coach Osborne told me, I believe, was the highest he ever got was 79% graduation rate. So, that's what one of the great all-time coaches, that's the great respect he held for Joe Paterno. And again, it was not just about his football, but it was about what he was, about building young men, about instilling in them the need to educate themselves and to be excellent when it came to their academic efforts. He often said, you have to start with the idea that a kid has to be a student first. And Paterno said in the 1982 Gannett News Service interview, we preach there are 3 things in a student's life when it comes to Penn State: studies, athletics, and social life. And you must keep them in that order, or you can never back away from that. So again, Joe Paterno, education first mindset, paid off for those thousands of young men that came to Penn State. And I don't know if you've watched the ceremony, dedication to his life and his funeral, but you saw that come clear through, not just from superstars, but from kids that couldn't even play after a couple of years because of injury. But Joe Paterno stuck with them, encouraged them, and instilled in them the importance of academics in their life and making sure they get that education. Because as we know full well, that when kids go off to play Division I sports, whether it's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, they don't always, and 99% of them never make it to the pro level. But they got an opportunity to go to college, and at places like Penn State and other universities, when you have coaches like Paterno and coaches that aspire to be like Joe Paterno, they instill in those kids that those 99% that can't make it big in the pros, they still can get an education, they still can graduate from college and go out and get a good job and provide for their families and become productive citizens. And again, that's something that Joe Paterno always preached, to be productive, to be a good citizen, to give back to your community. And he lived that life, and he will be sorely missed, not only in Central and in Pennsylvania, but I believe throughout the college ranks throughout the nation. And he'll be one of those people you can look to and say, that's the kind of coach I want to be, that's the kind of program I want to build, and those are the kind of kids that I want to turn into young, productive citizens in the United States of America. So again, pleased to be here with my colleagues from Allentown and Bellefonte? Close to Bellefonte. That's even smaller. And I'm actually from Everett, Charlie, so Altoona's a big city to me. I don't even know my way around Altoona. But again, thanks a lot for you guys for doing this. I appreciate it greatly, and I yield back.